We continue our coverage here. I am Lana Zach.
And I'm Elaine Quijano. We've been watching a CBS News special report. Special counsel Jack Smith just spoke about the unsealed indictment into former President Trump.
He said that Trump violated laws that put America at risk. He did caution that everyone should be presumed innocent until found guilty, and he urged everyone interested to read the indictment in full. Smith also said that his office will seek a speedy trial in Florida.
Trump was indicted on 37 felony counts related to the handling of sensitive documents found by the FBI at his Mar-a-Lago residence. The president is due in court in Miami next Tuesday. Here was special counsel Jack Smith earlier.
Prosecutors in my office are among the most talented and experienced in the Department of Justice. They have investigated this case hewing to the highest ethical standards, and they will continue to do so as this case proceeds. It's very important for me to note that the defendants in this case must be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. To that end, my office will seek a speedy trial in this matter, consistent with the public interest and the rights of the accused.
CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane joins us now. So, Scott, what's your take on what we heard from Jack Smith, the special counsel?
A few things jumped out at me. First of all, he said in so many words, the United States government, the special counsel, will seek a speedy trial. If you like air quotes in life, put air quotes around the word speedy trial, because in the federal system, things aren't quite as speedy as they may seem on television when you watch courtroom dramas. This is going to be measured by months, if not years, until a trial begins in the case of United States of America versus Donald J. Trump. But they're not going to seek to prolong this anymore than necessary. He felt empowered and inspired to say in so many words they want a speedy trial. But he also gave this 3 to 4 minute recitation of the importance of the law and the importance of everybody being held accountable and nobody being above the law. But not once did he mention the name Trump. A few fleeting references to the defendant and a much larger reference to the importance of integrity under the law. That's my takeaway. He's not going to answer questions. He's not going to get into the intricacies of the charging documents or the case, because that's what his team will do in court.
We are also joined by CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson. Jessica, we were talking right before we heard the special counsel's remarks about what we were hearing from the former president. He was asking, what about Biden? And saying that this is a witch hunt, and was pointing to the fact that Biden wasn't facing the same charges. For people who think that that is a valid argument, what is your take?
There's no world in which President Biden could face the same charges, because there's been no public reporting that he engaged in anything close to the behavior that is detailed in the indictment. I mean, there's a reason that Jack Smith said, I encourage all of you to read the indictment, because it truly does speak for itself. Let's emphasize what Jack Smith emphasized, which is innocent until proven guilty. But to those who think that the facts in these cases look in any way similar, I think that 49-page indictment, 38 counts, it really undermines that. Again, it's the difference between having something that you shouldn't have and then immediately alerting law enforcement and saying, I shouldn't have had this, and please come and look and see if there's anything else. We're talking about not just President Biden, but also Vice President Pence. And it's the difference between that and what we see in this indictment, which is former President Trump saying to his attorneys, well, what if we just told them we didn't have any classified documents? Would that be better than basically responding partially or failing to respond at all? And everything that is detailed here, all of the steps along the way leading up to this moment, indicate that the former president, engaged in willful behavior to impede, to obstruct, to hide, to prevent law enforcement from being able to obtain this information. And let's remember what the information is: highly sensitive national security information.
All right, CBS News Chief National Affairs and Justice Department correspondent Jeff Pegues joins us now. Jeff, let me ask you about Jack Smith, the special counsel, because he has another high-profile probe within his portfolio. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, to say the least, he has his hands full. Because we spent all this time talking about this case still looming out there in probably the future weeks, maybe a few months, is the investigation into January 6th and President Trump's actions during that period. And so as serious as this case is, and it is serious because, remember again, in April, we were talking about the case in New York that Alvin Bragg brought, and we were talking about the seriousness of that case. Well, this is a whole nother ballgame. As your guests have pointed out, this is a 49-page indictment. And as Bob Costa has reported, politics is looming over everything, and that's why you had the special counsel today not saying much. He did not say much for a reason. They don't want you to focus on the messenger, instead focus on the message and what is in that indictment. And my sources in the Department of Justice, there was a lot of thought, is what they tell me, that went into this document and laying out the argument. There's a lot of information in this document. Typically, with the types of indictments that we see day to day, we do not get this much information. Also, there's been this talk about, equal justice under the law. Let's be honest here. This is a former president. And law enforcement, as I've been reporting throughout, has tried to be deferential to the former president. In fact, when this investigation started in 2021, they didn't immediately rush into Mar-a-Lago or Bedminster. There were negotiations. Had this been perhaps any other U.S. citizen who's not a former president or vice president, there would have been a raid of their property. And so there was deference paid to the former president, and yet here we are today.
Jeff Pegues, outside of the Justice Department, with the inside picture of the mentality of the folks who are trying to figure all of this out. Now we're going to bring in CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe. We understand, Ed, that you are there at the White House. Ed, we have been living in strange times for a while now, but this seems to take it to another level. Give us some greater picture thoughts about how you believe history will record this moment.
Oh, well, this day will be remembered certainly as a big one because of the revelations in this indictment and the dozens of charges that have been laid out here against the former president. What I think what we can't yet account for is how much that presidency has affected this presidency, the current one, and everything that is done and said by the current president, Joe Biden, who today is in North Carolina for two separate events with community college educators and with military families. Twice today, so far at least, he's been asked by reporters about the indictment and has insisted he has no comment. On the second go-around, he was asked specifically if he's talked to the Attorney General at all ever about this case. He said he has not. And we've been told by aides not to expect the president to weigh in on the case later today, either as he leaves North Carolina or tonight when he gets back here to the White House, now that the indictment has been unsealed. That's in keeping with the president's preference to not weigh in on the details of this, understanding, as he has since his election campaign, that he's trying to demonstrate respect for and adherence to the rule of law and the professionalism of the Justice Department, because he argued during his campaign, of course, that Donald Trump and his administration had politicized and influenced unduly the Justice Department. So we know here at the White House they learned about the indictment last night the way most Americans did, through media reports. They did not say exactly how the president learned about it, but insisted it was through that there was no heads up, as there has never been, they say, in all of these developments related to former President Trump. The other thing we should point out, because there have been some questions about this, our Nicole Skanga, who covers the Homeland Security Department, the Secret Service for us, says that the Secret Service is getting no special accommodations, not asking for any, next Tuesday when former President Trump is set to appear at that federal courthouse in Florida. In other words, they'll go in and do the usual inspection of a building that they would before he goes, but otherwise won't be seeking any other special accommodations as the legal process plays out there in South Florida next week. But obviously another big day in the ongoing saga of the Trump years and these legal developments. What we don't, of course, know, Lana and Elaine, is how will the broader Republican Party react to this? How will Republican primary voters react to this? How will voters overall react to this in the coming days and weeks as they absorb the information, read up on the details of the indictment themselves, and see how next week's court proceedings play out?
How voters will react, how jurors potentially will react. Still so much of this chapter yet to be written. Scott MacFarlane, Jessica Levinson, Jeff Pegues, and Ed O'Keefe, thank you all.